Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you all joining this third in our series of family talks. No, is it our fourth? It's our fourth. Gosh, and they've all been fantastic. I've really enjoyed them, and I hope you have too if you've been part of the previous ones. So I'm Linda de Caestecker. I'm a medical doctor by trade. Public health and women's health have been my specialties. But now I'm working with Care Visions and with the Why Not Trust, supporting parents who are care experienced. And I am a mother of 4 grown-up children. And I suppose listening to the last few sessions, the thing that struck me is how great it is that parents are able to get support, help, advice. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what Stewart or others think, but since I am, my oldest child's 40 now, but when I was bringing up children, I felt I couldn't always ask for help or ask for advice. It felt like a sign of failure. Whereas now I think we all acknowledge it's a hard job. We're all trying to do it as well as we can, and we often need the help and advice of others and the evidence of things that work well. But let me start by introducing Stewart. Stewart works for Mellow Parenting. And Stewart, I'm just going to pass over to you to say a bit about who you are and what your role is and what we might be covering tonight.
Excellent. Thank you, Linda. And thanks very much for the opportunity to come along this evening and have a conversation with you around mellow parenting and supporting parents and carers, predominantly of young people. So my name's Stewart McClean. I am the National Development Officer at Mellow Parenting. So my experience is I'm currently in this role for the last 2 years. I've worked as a trainer for Mellow Parenting for the last 12 years. And really since 2004, I've had the opportunity to be able to deliver the range of our programmes that's available to parents and have enjoyed every minute of that. I've also got experience of working in family sport teams in the voluntary sector and also working within youth justice alongside young people. And I've got experience of working in residential childcare settings as well.
So, Stewart, just start by telling us what is mellow parenting and how does it work?
So Mellow Parenting's been around since the mid 1990s, and it was first of all developed by Dr. Christine Puckering and colleagues then, and originally it was delivered the first groups within Alloa Family Centre in central Scotland, and it's really grown since there. So we've got the core programme that's still run. Fortunately, that programme's run right across the world just now. And we've also got add-on additional programmes that's been created. So Mellow Parenting's main office is in Govan in Glasgow. So we're a registered Scottish charity. And our vision as an organisation is that we want every child, wherever they are in the world, to be part of a safe and nurturing family that will allow them and future generations the best possible start in life. So our organisation is a training organisation. We provide training for practitioner services to deliver our suite of programmes. So we have got programmes for parents, antenatal programme. So that's our bumps programme and dads to be. We've got programme for parents of babies and toddlers 0 to 5 years. We've got a programme for young people themselves, so that's predominantly delivered for young people 12 to up to 24, 25. We've got a Mellow Caring for Young People programme. We've also got our other programme for parents with learning differences of younger children and for parents with children with additional support needs as well. We also offer workforce development training through our conversations, and we work alongside services to provide ongoing support as well as the training, but we also do direct delivery, predominantly in Scotland, with services, and we've been really ramping that up over the last 18 months to partner with a number of different services to co-deliver our programmes and provide support to those practitioners and also the services to deliver our programmes as well.
So my understanding is most of the provision is through groups. So if a parent joins a Mellow Parenting group, what can they expect? What would happen in that group?
So if we take the Mellow Caring for Young People as the example, so some of our programmes, we've been working really hard over the last few years to look at how can we make our programmes more inclusive, because we realise that for lots of different reasons, not all parents are able to commit to attending a group. So Mellow Caring for Young People is an example of that. That programme can be delivered as part of a group, and most are. It can be delivered in a one-to-one alongside a parent, face-to-face. So that can either be in the family home or it can be another place that's suitable. But it can also be delivered online as well. So the first thing parents would expect is an in-depth pre-program support. So really trying to understand, what it is that the parents would like to get from attending the program. We also complete pre-program measures to look at, how things are just now, so we can evaluate that program alongside the parent. And the other part that's quite unique to a Mellow approach is also we would video record you and your child, or you would have the opportunity to video record and send that interaction between yourself and your young person. So it's about a 5 to 8 minute video recording, and it's of you doing some kind of, we would hope, a caretaking task. So videos that I've seen is making dinner together. It's maybe putting on like kind of duvets together. So something that's got a lot of interaction, because what we then do is have a strength-based conversation around the interaction between the parent and their young person, to really have a conversation about what's going well. How does the parent feel about that? And if there is any challenges, we can also acknowledge and have a discussion around that as well. The difference in the Mellow Caring for Young People programme is we don't actually take that video footage into the group and get that support from group members, because it can be difficult getting permission for the young person. So that's solely done in a one-to-one part of that programme.
Yeah,
Eh,
I can
well,
understand that. It sounds a bit scary though. If I was a parent and I was having to video my interaction with my child, and what if I tell them off or I'm a bit sharp, or oh dear, what do parents get out of that? How valuable is it?
so I suppose giving an example might be really helpful. So one group that I had the privilege of working alongside recently, it was a mum, and her 14-year-old son were both doing a drawing activity together. So to start with, they were all at opposite ends of the room. The mum was working towards her own plan of what she wanted to try and improve, and that included her young person returning back to her care full time. And to start off, they were just drawing, and there was a small bit of communication between the two of them. As the activity went on, and mum was describing what she was drawing, her son was asking her, different questions about it. Mum realised that he wanted to talk to her about that, so put down the pen and gave him a lot of eye contact, checking out with him, asking him how he felt about it, what would he like to draw. And from there, you could see her son moving closer to the top end of the paper. So it was like a flip chart size paper, move closer to the top end of that paper, and actually get close to mum. And you could actually see them, physically getting close together, the eye contact, the smiles. Now, when we spoke about that just after it happened, mum wasn't aware of any of that stuff that was going on. But when we really looked at the video, the one comment that was huge was mum turning and saying to me after we watched the video, "Do you know what? I'm a good mum."
Yeah.
That's like after us talking about, all the things that she's doing, that we checked in about how she was feeling while we were watching the video, but also how she was feeling then, some of the things that she was doing with her son? What benefits do we think that's got there? And yes, there was some bits that mum picked up and thought, I should have maybe done that a bit differently. And we explored that because actually, it's the parents' opinion about that. But really, the focus on the video feedback that we give is looking at the strengths, looking at the positives. Because if we can try and identify that for parents, it's usually important because it gives something to build on.
Well
You
done
know,
that. Yeah.
as a parent myself, you can pick up all the negatives that you do
Yeah.
as a parent. I can think of lots of things, and
Mm.
that's a lot of time where our focus goes is
Yeah.
thinking, I could have done that better, or that maybe didn't work out as well as it is. But we don't necessarily give ourselves that time to be able to reflect and think, what went well there? What did I do? What was the benefit of that? How am I feeling about that? And that's really what the purpose of that video is. So we try and, going back to your original point there, we try and make it not feel scary. It's hard to show what it looks like because of confidentiality for other parents' videos and things. But we do try and describe the videos and the purpose behind it. And although parents doing this program have been reluctant, we've not had anybody that said no, I don't want to do that.
No, that's very interesting. A really good example. And so, from all of that experience, what are some of the main challenges that the parent or carer of a young person is facing today with all that's going on in the world? And we're always hearing about screen time and social media and the challenges that our young people actually face. So for parents, what are the main issues that they're dealing with?
So some of the things that's discussed within the groups, it varies in terms of parents really trying to understand their young person's experience of certain things. So whether that's their experience of social media, it's been discussions around young people's mental health and well-being, and actually, as a parent, how do I support that? There is conversations about waiting lists for different services and
Mm.
things, and frustrations around that. There's conversations around some things that we match when we deliver the young person's program as well. So things like the worrying thing around fights being set up and for the purpose of being video recorded, and actually the parents feeling about that, because actually if the parent watches that video of their child either doing the assault or being assaulted, the impact that has on the parents. So there's things like that. Again, the impact of COVID as well discussed, with young people, screen times, computer time. Yeah, so there's lots of things, but the key part of the Mellow for Young People's program, Mellow Caring for Young People's program, is that we've got the structured sessions that we go through, but there's a lot of flexibility there to check in with parents about things that is really important to them. We'll do that at the start of every session. A check-in. And there's what we very much say to the parents is it's about us providing an opportunity so you can talk and connect with other parents as well. Ultimately, you are the expert of your life. Your young person is the expert of their life, although, you sit alongside them with there as well, and and do have. So it's not us. We're not here to say, you need to do this, you need to do the other. It's about us having that open conversation, and really finding out what strategies, information from attending our program will benefit that family. And it's pretty well received that way.
Yeah.
Because parents do say they think they've come along, whether it be a one-to-one, whether it be a group, to be told you need to do this or you need to change
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's not our role.
Yeah. It's got to suit your personality and who you are as well, hasn't it? And in our previous session we talked about stress. If your child is stressed, or if you're finding them or their behavior or just life in general stressful, and we talked a lot in the last one about how to manage that. That must come up in groups as well. And what's your advice or support that you can give around that?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about kind of range of emotions that parents experience, but we also talk about then the importance of supporting young people to name and understand, the parents, young people to name and understand how they're feeling, to give a name to that. But for the parents themselves, you are right, there's a lot of parents that will come along and speak about their experience of stress, and sometimes high level stress, because of different things, toxic stress in some cases, if there's been, violence within the family home and different other things. We do a specific session that looks at the emotional regulation system, so your drive, threat, and soothe system, and talk through that. But we do play a big part on have many discussions about what is it the parent does or would like to do or could be supported to do to provide that self-care for themselves. And as program facilitators, we don't just ask parents questions, we're very much sitting alongside them. So we wouldn't ask a parent a question that we wouldn't feel comfortable talking about. So for example, if it's in a group, one of the program facilitators will go first and say, well, some of the things that I do, self-care is X, Y, and Z, and then open it up to the group. And then what we'll do is try, if a parent's saying that they don't do anything or they find it difficult, we'll invite them and say, could we, as a group, think about some things that you might be willing to try that might be helpful for you? So again, we're trying to encourage that real self-care. Reaching out to other services as well and support. So whether that be the kind of wider family support that they might have, friends, if it's stress around school attendance for the young person, is there somebody in the school they can reach out to and actually just talk about how they're feeling and look for the support. We also have a thing called the tent. So it's an actual camping tent, and there's different ideas and the outside of the tent. So that might be, self-care would be one of them, support, understanding, connection. But we then think to the parent, if you're inside this tent with your young person, what is it that you need that's maybe missing from the ideas that's on this tent? What would benefit you and your young person if you think of yourself in here? And then we then move on to talk about, so who might be able to provide that as well for you? Who might you be able to go to? Sometimes it's talking about health professionals. Sometimes it's talking about maybe their allocated social worker or support worker, wider family members, friends, lots of different people. But we do try and encourage that that ability for parents to look after themselves. And we highlight it as important. You do look after yourself because you need to be able to look after yourself as a parent to then be the parent you want to be, to your young person.
And is communication one of the bits outside the tent? Do people, particularly in these teenage years, or if your child is having other difficulties, that can really hinder communication with between the parent and the young person?
Yeah, so again, we talk a lot about communication and different styles of communication and different situations. Also, the power of language is important. So another example, thinking about it, is parent come along to one of our groups, upset, frustrated, very much saying to us as the group that, when she came in, I've had it. I just fucking hate him. I just hate him. We're saying, let's sit down, let's have a chat, let's have a coffee, as a group, and just to calm that parent. But ultimately, she was talking about a young person, and the relationship had been beginning to get fractured for a long time. And she felt that she wasn't receiving support. She was concerned about being able to hold down her job because her young person wasn't able to go to school because of different reasons. So a lot of stress there. But ultimately, we sat with her and says, thinking about your young person, how do you actually feel about him removing the behaviour? And she said, I love him, absolutely love him. I wouldn't be as upset if I didn't love him. She said, right, okay, so what part is it that you've described that you hate? And she says, some of the behaviours, the stress that's associated with some of the behaviours, the worry that it causes, and all these things. So we're giving names to these. And what we've done as a group is say, how must your young person feel if he's been told, that you fucking hate him, in your words. And that's not to have a go at the parent. That's just to try and think
Yeah.
about how does that feel for the
Yeah.
young person. And it was after we spoke through it. And ultimately, the bottom part of that was that that parent says you're absolutely right. The groups is absolutely right. And she came in the following week and says, I'm not going to lie, much of the behaviour hasn't changed. But the language I've used changed. I'm no longer telling them that. I very much give them that message that I do love you, but I'm really struggling with whatever that behaviour is.
Mhm.
And she says that the power of using that in itself had benefits in terms of their relationship together, because they weren't, immediately falling out. And it also builds on some of the other content that we talk about in the programme as well, in terms of rupture and repair. Talking about ruptures within relationships are absolutely normal. But it's about what do we do to try and repair things when there is a rupture within your relationship. And the fact that as a parent, it is important that you try and model that for your young person about how you try and repair that. It's something linked with that as well. It's about, as a parent, if you don't get something right, do we apologise to our young people if we don't quite get it right? Because if we expect them to apologise, then actually, how do we model that for them as well? So again, we're talking about the importance of language and things like that, encouraging them to apologise with the young person when they're in the wrong as well.
Yeah. I like that rupture and repair. Rupture's quite a strong word, but it can feel like that in the heat of the moment. And knowing how you can repair that and apologize, talk about how much you love your child or your parent, whichever way around it is, I think is really important, and that we are role models, as you've said, for our children, that we can say sorry and we can
Yeah.
say when we've been wrong. And the support that parents get from each other. Can you say a bit about that? Because that must be an important part of doing things together in a group. Um, and certainly in the work we do in the Why Not Trust with parents who are care experienced, they often don't have that support from other parents. And what we're trying to do is create groups and activities that they can do to get to know and make friends with other parents and get that support. Do you want to say a bit about that?
Yeah, the group support is hugely beneficial for parents. I mean, sometimes just the bit of knowing that you're not the only one experiencing what
Yeah.
you're experiencing. When you hear, often you'll hear parents say, I thought I was the only one that experienced that. And that in itself gives some reassurance that it's not. There's other parents experiencing very similar. So that's definitely the power of the group. The support from each other. Sometimes when you're talking about certain things, there can be, parents that get upset. But that ability for another parent to
Mm.
say, I'll make you a coffee, or would you like me to give you a hug, or things like that, is hugely important. But that takes time in terms of getting to that point, because what we also do at the very start of the program is we develop a group agreement, in terms of how does everyone want to treat each other when they come along to the group. um, what we're going to do around confidentiality, and actually what does confidentiality mean for everyone, including program facilitators. If there is challenges around kind of safeguarding and things again, what are we going to do that? Because ultimately we need to make sure that everyone's kept safe, whether that's the parent herself, whether it's the young person. Um, so everyone gets an opportunity, from program facilitators to parents, to co-develop the agreement, and it's sat in the group. And certainly for the first few sessions, if not every session, it's referred back to, because that's our agreement of, if we're not sure, if there's maybe a disagreement about something, or we're not sure about something, we go back to the group agreement and think about, how what everybody's agreed to. Um, and most importantly, we always check out, is it meeting our aims as well? So actually, now that we're 2, 3 sessions in, there's something need to change about that group agreement, because for anyone to learn, we need to create safety, emotional, physical safety, but we also need to create an environment where people can relax as much as they can so they can take on new learning, new information.
Mm.
So that's where that then creates from. But to see the power of the group in action is really, really, important. And if the program's delivered in a one-to-one, we also try to replicate some of that. So if the program's delivered in a one-to-one, it'll be an agreement between the parent and the program facilitator about this. So there'll be talks about the exact same things you would in a group. On a one-to-one, we can't recreate the support within the group, but we do try and look at other supports whilst we're delivering the programme that might be available in the community, other family supports that's really key. So we do try and look at how we try and also provide that support to the parent on that one-to-one as well.
And you mentioned mental health earlier and some of the concerns that parents have and young people themselves, I'm sure, about the long waits that they might have to see a professional about their mental health. How do you support both the parent and through the parent, the young person, while they're waiting for that formal help?
So again, there's that opportunity created when parents are taking part in the programme to learn some things around the importance for young people. So we provide that opportunity to parents to tell us about how they're feeling in terms of the kind of waiting list and how that feels for them. We'll also look at, is there any other additional supports? We'll talk to parents about that as well. But we'll also give them some ideas and some strategies. So for instance, there's the iceberg activity that we do. So getting parents to think about at the very top of that iceberg, what the visual or presenting challenge is. So the example I think in the parents logbook is your young person falls out with a friend. So we talk about that as the presenting challenge. But then what we say is, so what's going on underneath that? It might be issues to do with social media. It could be, different, interests at school. It could be new peer groups. It could be lots of different things. So we get the parents to think about what could be going on underneath the surface. And we then say, but actually, as a parent, unless you ask and try and find out about these things, it's only the visual thing that you can see. It's you can't see what's going on. That requires that conversation with your young person. So it's things like that. There's the strengths jar as well that we use. So we get parents to think about the strengths of the relationship with their young person and what that feels like. So a lot of it's not it's certainly not designed to replace the kind of key services that might be in the waiting list for. But what we are hoping to try and do is try and support the parent during that time when they are, on a waiting list. So hopefully when they do access that point and stage to be seen by whatever service that is, that they do feel that they've been supported and maybe the situation at least has been stable for them. So there's lots of helpful things that we do during the programme that aids to that. And as I say, touched on earlier on, we also have our young persons programme as well. That's very similar to the parents programme, and that can be delivered with alongside young people in a group. It can be delivered one-to-one with young people, and it can also be delivered online as well. So it matches a lot of the ideas. And some services that have we've been working alongside offer both. So if the parents maybe going along to the parents programme, the young person's also accessing the young person's programme as well. So, and in the young person's programme, if the parents programme is not available, there is some optional sessions that can be done with the parent to get them to have a bit of an understanding about what it is the young person's learning about during the young person's programme.
We've talked a bit about social media, and it's certainly come up in our previous sessions. And, we're not turning the clock back. I think of it, it's not a world that I experienced growing up. And even I didn't experience it hugely with my own children, but it is a world that our young people today are having to navigate, and it can be quite difficult. What are the tips that you would give or advice to, or what issues would you discuss with parents around social media?
So social media comes up a lot. It's not actually solely focused on the young people themselves.
Yeah.
That sometimes parents talk about their own experience of it as well. And there's no specific topic we cover that's solely based on social media. But what we do think about is the communication skills with the young person. Is about sometimes it's about the kind of wondering questions with the young person as well. So we do we encourage parents to be not just about that, but lots of things. Being curious about their young person's world, about what's going on, and in some of the sessions we do give suggested practice, almost kind of tip sheet, I suppose, about how we can be curious and exploring, things with our young person.
Yeah, I really like these practical things. Here's something you can do with your child, and we heard about some of that in other sessions as well, about a youngster, maybe. I think the example was a 10-year-old wanting to use TikTok and her mother being concerned about that, but they looked at it together. Now, not that might be difficult for some young people, but it seemed a really good way of saying, okay, well, you can use this, but we'll do it together and learn about it together. Um,
It's a
so
relationship. It's at the key of
yes,
that, isn't it?
yeah,
At the heart of it.
yeah. And David was just asking whether you provide therapeutic support, such as family therapy.
So our organisation doesn't. We deliver our own programmes through Mellow. In terms of support, our programme facilitators that we provide training to. It's not just the training that we offer. We do offer ongoing support. So there is evaluation support that our team offers. We also offer reflective consultations that can be done online when you're delivering one of your programs as well. So our idea behind it is that we want to try and provide a high level of support for practitioners that's delivering our Mellow programs, but ourselves we don't offer family therapy. Our programs are relational, they are therapeutic, but it's our own programs that we deliver.
And how does a parent get access? They're maybe listening to this, or they've read about Mellow Parenting. They're thinking, I'd really like to join one of these groups. How do they go about that?
So the suite of programs is used fairly widely and is continuing to build across Scotland and across the UK. Um, it can be hard because when we provide training, we do rely on practitioners getting in touch with us, letting us know where groups are, because we do sometimes get parents contacting us,
Uh-huh.
to ask about where they can access the program. Um, so what we definitely do is contact local services, council services, charities within the area to ask if they know if it's running. But certainly, you could drop an email to ourselves. So that would be inquiries@mellowparenting.org. Just highlight, where you live. And if you're looking to attend a programme, we'd hope to be able to put you in touch with someone from that area, local to yourself, because they're not, the programmes aren't all delivered by us in Glasgow, because that would be, for a very small population of Scotland. Our programmes we go out and we co-deliver in various different areas of Scotland, and continue to increase that.
And can we think a bit about schools? Well, it'd be helpful to know whether schools use the program and how they use it. But if a young person's having difficulties at school, either because of relationships or because of um, um, anxiety or other issues, how do you best support a parent, or what should a parent do to support that young person who's not wanting to go to school for legitimate reasons?
I think that's it. I think how we describe, not going to school is really important, because, and I'm going back even before working with Mellow in terms of, working alongside young people, I've yet to find a young person where there isn't an actual reason why they don't feel able to attend school.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of those reasons. So it's really important that we understand what it is, because if we don't understand, the reasons for that, then we can't look to find out what things might help, that young person getting to school. And, there's lots of reasons. Is it something about the journey going to school? Is it something about the actual school building? Is it something that, is it something in a class that they're struggling with, and they don't quite have the confidence to kind of say they're finding that difficult? So actually, rather than, doing that, it's maybe a bit easier just to not go to school. In that situation, is it, issues around peer relationships, issues around bullying? So there could be lots of reasons the young person not attending school. But certainly through the Mellow program, that conversation happens a lot. And again, it's the group, having that conversation about the kind of reasons behind
Yeah.
the lack of attendance at school. There seems to be, a kind of link with, certainly around COVID, and young people not being not being in the school building for a long period of time.
Yeah.
We do have examples of services delivering our Mellow for Young People program, going into the school and delivering the program. So that may be the schools delivering that themselves, but it could be other services. So I think, top of my head, St Columbus High School in Dunfermline, they offer the Mellow for Young People program. They have been doing it for quite some time, and they're just finishing working with the parents as well, delivering a Mellow for Young Persons program. There's some services that's working alongside young people where they're in the school building, but not able to go to class for different reasons. Again, they're using the program to work alongside young people. So yeah, it's there's not a specific topic
Yes.
that
Quite
covers that within
individual.
the program, but it's certainly about, again, that relationship, that communication. The again, being curious about things that's really
Mm-hmm.
important in those situations. But it's we're certainly speaking with the parents that attend the groups that I've delivered. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy at all, and it can impact even things like parents' commitments around maybe learning or employment and things like that as well. As well as, we spoke earlier on about stress. That can increase stress as well.
Yeah. But it's a good point, understanding the reasons, and it's unlikely it'll just be, I don't fancy going to school. I mean, every child probably has that, but that's not in the long term,
Yeah.
or longer term, what the underlying issue is. Moira's got a very easy question for you. Haha. What would you say are the top 3 universal tips you would give parents?
It's a hard one, because if I'm delivering a group,
Yeah.
I would open that up to the group, and get their opinions, and get the expertise within the group. I think going to the kind of core bits about the program is, first of all, that relationship
Hmm.
is really, really important. Is being curious, wondering why certain things are happening, because we might go in with our own judgments on things, but it might be different from what the young person's saying. And actually being curious and wondering encourages the young person to give us more information than going in. But the main one I would say is um, not being overcritical of yourself. Parenting, there is no perfect parent, and we cover that in the program. We talk about that there is no perfect parent. Parenting is hard. Um, Babies, as the saying goes, babies don't come with a manual. Toddlers don't. Young people certainly don't. So it's about being kind to yourself as a parent as well. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we don't get it right. But it's about, definitely about not being, as about being kind to yourself, and not being overcritical, because there is no perfect parent.
Yeah, parental guilt's a terrible burden to carry at times, isn't it? And I liked what you said at the start about the strength-based video feedback, that you're looking for the positives, and you're wanting to build on them. And I guess it's the same with our children, that we want, if all we're ever doing is criticizing them, that doesn't help develop that relationship, does it? It's making sure we're praising them when they get things right, when they do well, and that they know that. My mother always says, she was an only child and she got fed up with her mother telling everyone how wonderful she was. So she made sure she never did that with her children. And so she would always, make a joke or tell you what you were doing wrong. And I think it's really crucial that we're being careful about that and making sure we tell our children when they're doing really well, or even when parts of what they've done are really good,
Mhm.
and focusing on the positive.
Praising the process.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
necessarily going right to the outcome, praising the process of what they're doing. Specific praise about what it is they've done. For instance, if it's rather than saying thank you if they've taken the bin out, say, thanks very much for taking that bin out. It's helped me because you've done, so making it really quite specific.
yeah,
Also being sincere about it as well.
yeah,
It's that is really important about that sincerity, because the young person will pick up if you're not being sincere, and they might, take that as, you're yeah, you're being critical, or you're definitely not being sincere. So it is really important. When we're providing praise to young people, we are, using those things, specifically being specific about it.
And it's okay at times, isn't it, for your child to know you are struggling? Not to lay all that on them, but to, that they understand, as you say, I'll not always do everything right, and it's okay for you to know that. Um,
Yeah, I mean that is a conversation we do have, and whether it be the younger the toddlers group with mums and dads, or whether it be the young person's group as well. Is that about being honest as well? Actually, as parents, we maybe need 5 minutes to calm down.
yeah,
If something's happened, or if we've just came straight in the door and you're maybe got two teenagers and they're shouting at each other, before you go and deal with that, you maybe need to process that drive home, or something else that's happened. So being honest around actually any time, 5 minutes to myself, and then I'll have a conversation about it. But the important bit is we do revisit that as well. The other bit as well is about, you can't be expected to know absolutely everything all the time as well. So sometimes we talk about it being okay to say to our young person, actually, I don't know, or I don't feel I can make a decision on that. If they're asking something, it might be to go and stay with a friend that you've never met before,
no,
as a kind of younger teenager. Um, I'm not sure about that. I need an hour to think about that, and I'll come back to you. Because the young person's able to pick up your thinking process. You're not just saying, they know what it is you're saying, but the important bit is definitely coming back and revisiting that in the timescale you've said.
yeah, yeah,
It's something that we talk about.
yeah. And for uh, for working parents, there's always that feeling of, am I spending enough time with my child? Am I spending enough time focusing on them? Does that come up in your discussions about how you balance all the demands to bring in an income to keep the family going, but it can mean you're working quite long hours?
It's one of the drivers absolutely for the program being available in a one-to-one as well, because we know that people have different work patterns and things. We know that parents can't always be able to commit the time during the day to be able to attend a group. So one of the drivers very much for that was the flexibility around that. Because we do think very hard about the inclusion at Mellow, and actually how do we make the programs as inclusive as we can. That was one of the drivers for one-to-one. An example of that actually for our bumps program was, thinking about mums during pregnancy, if they were experiencing ill health during pregnancy, they maybe had additional health appointments that they had to go to, which made it really difficult to commit to a bumps program. Sometimes, going along the same time each week. Um, so we thought about that, and actually, what we said well is if the program was available on a one-to-one for mums there, it can actually be worked around them because we don't, as I say, we don't want to discriminate particularly, in that situation. So it's certainly been thinking about inclusion has been a big driver for us thinking about how do we be able to offer the program in a way that fits for parents as well. So, but in terms of the kind of the relationship, the kind of work and fitting everything in as well, it is discussed absolutely during the group. Sometimes it's about that desire for the young person to spend more time with the parent because they want to be with their friends or doing different other things as well. So sometimes it works the absolute opposite, where the parents are saying, "I just wish you would come and watch a movie alongside me," or they would like to spend some time with me as well. So, but again, all that comes down to, as we spoke about, the kind of core part of relationships.
Mhm.
And that's what they're talking about, is that relationship. And generally, we view things, the parents that we work alongside, and Mellow as, trying to do the best they can, in the situation that they are. That's what everybody's trying to do, and everybody's situation is different. It's why we, again, go back to the parent being the expert of their lives, and not program facilitators. The expert in my own life, but not the expert of the parents come along. But what we do is we encourage parents to give us an insight. And that's a privilege as well for a program facilitator to sit and parents be able to give you an insight into their lives and their experiences, and the information that you get is really humbling at times as well.
And you're a parent yourself. Has it helped you in your parenting
Yeah,
role?
yeah. Um, yeah, listen, I've got two teenagers myself, an older teenager and
Yeah,
kind of
you
mid
don't need to tell us
teenager.
any of your
Yeah, I'm not going
details, but
to give away my age or anything around that, but yeah, it's the exact same, deliver the programs, but it's different when it's your own
yeah,
family as well.
yeah.
Because when you're working alongside parents, you're somewhat removed. When it's your own family, you're emotionally invested in that.
Mhm.
And I would love to say to you that, our strategies and informations, I follow it to the letter, but I try to. Don't always get it right. And my two boys will testify to that.
It's good that we're all in the same position. We're all in the same boat in this, aren't we? It's not always what we say, but what we do. Or yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we've got a specific dads program, so we've got a Mellow Dads, and again it's it's great, being able to connect with other dads, and you'll be able to give your own experience alongside kind of being a dad as well. So I've got many um you know, great groups that I've run alongside, and relationships I've been able to build alongside dads as well over the years, which is really important. Yeah, Mellow, our dad's program is very, very similar to the mum's program. Very, very similar. There is only myself and the CEO was actually kind of going through some of the content. They're probably about 98% identical, but the key bit for the dads program is it actually says it's for dads. There's a couple of discussion points that's a bit different in the mum's program, particularly around pregnancy and birth and things. But the program's the exact same because it's parents we're talking about. We don't want to distinguish the roles because regardless if you're a mum or your dad, you can take on those both. There's no specifics that a mum can do or dad can't, that kind of thing. So, and we definitely want to put that across that parent is for both mums and dads.
so you've got specific dads groups if somebody wants that, but are most of your groups mums and dads?
So no, the programs generally for parents are a group for mums and a group for
Or
dads. And that's it's from a lot of the kind of research about people's experience,
Right.
but it's also about some of the conversation that we have as well.
Okay.
Um,
That works.
everyone, when we think about that kind of whole family support as well, that's the benefit of the one-to-one, because if it's appropriate to do, given the family situation, then that can be delivered, with both mum and dad together on a one-to-one. But we want to make sure, first of all, that both parents are comfortable with that. So when we deliver the training for practitioners, we always say that that's the most important. But if it isn't a one-to-one, we need to make sure we check out parents' comfort levels, because some parents are quite happy to do that together and there's no issues around that. Other parents maybe not so,
The,
but for lots of different reasons. And we just need to be kind of careful about that as well.
just before we finish then, Stuart, is there anything you would like to say just that you haven't had a chance to say or that you think people should know?
Really, just a thank you for the invitation to come on here, and talk about Mellow, and the work we do, and yeah, that to provide that opportunity. It's always, my role is really varied at Mellow. I, Lots of admin, and report writing and things, but I still get the opportunity to deliver programs direct to some parents, and it's by far the most enjoyable part of my job, as is connecting with our program facilitators, who do a great job, getting alongside parents, working alongside them. So just a thank you for the opportunity to be able to come and talk about Mellow and the work that we do.
Okay. And it has been well researched too. So yeah, there is good evidence for programs like this and that they do provide good support for parents. So thank you to everybody and have a good evening. And thanks again, Stuart.